And then just let your breathing get full, but soft. Just your natural breath. And close your eyes. Bring your awareness to the center of your body. Like your heart center. Just feel where that is. And if you'd like, you can bring the awareness of the Stargate into that area, or the Lemurian Sisterhood Master Aura symbol into your field, into your heart, or whatever feels right to you that gives you that singular place of focus and allowing. And then see if you can just gently sink into that with your next breath a little more deeply. And feel your neck relax and your shoulders. And let the chair just hold you up, support you. Feel the energy in the room, the hug of spirit around each one of us and around the whole family. And relax into those arms, knowing that there is nothing you need to do but rest in this moment. Giving yourself to the love and the awareness inside of you and around you, and the love that comes from the message from the magnetic master, Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Do you really know what's happening here? Dear human, the creative source which you have come from is so in love with you. The only barrier to full communication from us is free choice. You must be free not to accept. And we can't wave flags and we can't give you things to prove it. You gotta look. And by looking, it isn't a switch, a button you press. It's none of those. It is a very small point within your psyche, within your intellect, within that place in your pineal and your innate that says, I wonder if it's real. The I wonder experience starts a snowball rolling that could be stopped at any time by you. But until you say, I wonder, nothing happens. And that's because the honor we have of humanity demands free choice. This entire scenario of Earth and the way it has occurred, whether you call it a simulation, is a plan. It's a plan that is so magnificent, I can tell you that it has been done before on other planets. There is protocol. We have seen it before. But the consciousness and the confluence of consciousnesses must agree in order to change the planet in the way we see it changing. And the cycles of time and the place the earth is in space that we have talked about before all combine so that the time is now. It's the reason I'm here. Maybe it's the reason you're in the chair now in front of me or listening to this message. You're wondering, what's up? Is there something perhaps I haven't been told, you're saying? And the answer is no. We've been telling you for 26 years. And before that, there were those telling you, the ancients told you. And what I want to give you in this short little message is going to be continued tonight. The beauty of growing up. And what happens to humanity. You make an assumption. And so many humans, those listening, make an assumption that you know how things work. And you look at the cycle of history. And you say, it's going to happen again like that. Now, we said that yesterday, but now let's enhance it. Humanity has had one consciousness as long as you've been alive, your parents' parents, all the way back to the beginning. And if you want to see proof of that, all you have to do is look at the history of humanity and war. Something that makes no sense whatsoever, where nobody wins, is then repeated over and over. And so what you must say is, when it comes to wisdom on the planet, you're not very wise. Because you keep repeating things that simply do not work. Why would you then expect a change? In your defense, if you're listening to this right now, and you're an unbeliever, and somebody has told you to listen, the logic says, stop listening. Because it's not going to get any better, it never has. That's human nature. And what we're saying to you today, if you would give the possibility and the potential of a change of human nature based upon everything we're telling you that we're seeing in history, in your children, and all those, there may very well be reason to take a look. Parents, listen. You have children, and when they're 8 years old, you treat them a certain way. They're at that interesting age where they are seeing adolescence approaching. It's not there yet. And their life requires you to be with them, to guide them, to discipline them in a way that they perhaps would not understand at 8. They got to report to you. They got to be in sight of you. They got to come home after school. You got to know where they are. That's an 8-year-old. And that is the system that you have of love for your child. And it is a system of love, isn't it? Oh, you love them so much. You want to make sure they're protected, because 8 is an age where they don't know much. They really don't. They don't have any wisdom yet. You're their wisdom. They don't understand it. Turn the page. 11 years later, and they're 19. And maybe even ready to leave. Maybe they have. How do you treat them now? Young adults with free choice. Do they have to come home? Not really, no. Do you love them still? More than ever. They've grown up. They've got personalities of their own. They're beautiful. They're young women and young men. And you celebrate their life, but you don't treat them like they were 8. Now, when consciousness remained at 8 years old, For thousands of years, we treated you as being 8. And now you're growing up. And dear ones, that is why the interactive energy between God and humanity is starting to elevate and shift and change. And that requires you to relax with the way we talk to you and what we do and how it works. And religious people and systems and churches all over the earth are going to argue with this and say God is the same today, yesterday, forever. There's no reason to think God is going to treat you any different today, and there is a reason, because you have grown up. The wisdom factor is starting to shift and change. The old souls are carrying it along with the children first. You're starting to see it on the planet. And the energy we have and how we discuss things, how we work with you, what's going to happen next starts to actually morph and change. Tonight, we're just going to cover a couple of them. But you got to see it. And you got to know why. And understand the love. Not only has it not changed, it's increased because of the potentials of where it's going. That's why it feels different. Healer, that's why it's not the same as it was 5 years ago. Reader, that's why it's not the same. Those of you who have been light workers all your life, and here comes this energy. You don't know what to think. Is it bad? Is it good? Have you lost something? Have you gained something? Because you've never experienced it before. So I'll close with this. The 19-year-old is treated totally different, is given more freedom. At Christmas time, the gifts look a little different, don't they? I want you to see that and understand that. The gifts look different. And maybe you haven't seen it yet. Maybe you don't know even what they are, what they do. But believe me, they're grand. They're big. Because we love you. And that is the truth. And so it is.
From that beautiful place of deep peace, feel the gratitude in the room, the appreciation, the caring, the compassion, the shanti, the peace in your heart. And allow yourself to open that beautiful heart to the peace that's available to you every day. And let these hours, these meditations, these channels, these lectures, bring that peace back to you. When you feel yourself leaving, come back with a breath. Come back with a remembrance of your own true peace, your own true power, your own ability to choose peace. And take a breath. Feel the yes of choosing peace. And know that that yes is always with you. Just as our beautiful entourage in this room, our family, the choice of being here, the choice of taking this energy inside of you into the world, and walking in the peace and the love.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. There are those who continue to say that channeling is an odd thing. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit into that which you have learned might be truth. And there are those who say, well, it's for many reasons. First of all, who are you? I'm the magnetic master. And why would I be magnetic? And what is that word doing in a spiritual context? I met my partner in 3D on this planet with his choice 26 years ago. And he might have told you about the opening sortie, about the meeting. He might have indicated his reluctance when he was alone, in the dark, by the way. When he sat in the chair for the first time and said, if you're there, show me. In that moment, his countenance, his brain, his heart, his pineal, all were synchronized and asking for a sign. He wasn't sure. And in that, he had given the invitation to be shown. He gave permission. And what he got, he didn't expect. For when he sat in the chair, he cried. An emotion welled up in him, and tears came down his cheek, and he bounced out of the chair and was angry. It's true, all of it. It was a form of control, he decided. He didn't ask to feel the emotion, but he had. And he did it again and again. And the reason is because the engineer, the pseudo-scientist in him, got a cause and effect relationship that he could not explain. And so he did it again. There were no words, there were no messages like this. There was no advice, nothing except emotion. And dear ones, that is when his heart lit up. And when he connected it to that which was his persona. And he got out of his head. And it took years for him to understand what was happening, to be comfortable with it, and then to realize he needed to share it. It was too big. It was too grand. He tells people that God got bigger than the box that he was in. He began to use terms like the master physicist of the universe is God. That the more you learn about science, the more you learn about the Creator. And that there is no separation. And that it is men and women who choose to separate themselves with free choice from God. And here we are. And those who listen are either believing or not that this might be a message. But they still want to know, who are you? What if there was no real who? The singularity of your bias says that it's got to be a singular entity. Those who want to draw me, put skin and wings on me, give me a name. Make me an angel. Make me singular. I'm one because you think you're one. And you're not. Hardly. If you could see the essence of that which you call your soul, there is multiples. Because God is not singular. That which you call God is not singular. That which you see as the creative source is not singular. It is a soup, if you wish to. Say this, a soup of benevolent love. In a quantum way, it cannot be qualified or quantified. It is the essence of all. And that's who you are. And the disguise you have is that you're singular. You wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, and that's the same face for all those years. And it's a joke. It's a trick. You are so much bigger than this. But for this test, dear ones, and for this experience, dear ones, on this planet, it must be this way. But many of you are starting to see a bigger truth. And the bigger the truth becomes, the more benevolent and beautiful it is. I have never given you a message that was anything but congratulatory, a beautiful message of love for you, for what you're doing on the planet, for where you've been, what you've become, where you've come from. I've never told you you had to be something or be somewhere. I've just said that with free choice, there are some tools that if you open the toolbox, you'd see them. And I could start listing the tools we've talked about. The ability to sense love. The ability to be slow to anger, to develop past that which you call human nature. The ability to heal yourself, the ability to stay here a long time. All built in. In these 2 days, you have heard the science. It says the same thing. We told you years ago that your climate change was cyclical. We told you that warming precedes cooling. And you heard the science. We told you why. We told you you didn't create it. And now you've heard the science. I'll tell you, the science is always going to back up that which has been created by the Creator. The cycles have been created for a reason. And the reasoning behind the cyclical energies of this planet, of your life, of the biology, of the economics, is all there for a reason. So you'll feel comfortable with it because here it comes again and you can do with it what you wish. It's not a shock. It's not a surprise. And we've told you that. But here you sit in an energy that you'd never experienced before, ever. The civilization that you call Earth is poised on the brink of choice. But it isn't one that is happening instantly. It has already started. To some of you, it is 50 years old. Dispensations of energy shift and change and cycles occupy decades of time. They are not a flash in the pan, as you say. And so many of you have been involved in that which we would call spirituality, awakening to that which is your own abilities. God is inside. You are God. We have told you that from the beginning. Isn't it beautiful to know that you do not have some entity in the sky that is going to judge you? And that instead is part of the love scenario that you have set up and created for yourself. It's benevolent and will continue to be. But there's something up. You see, as the energy starts to shift on the planet that lets you become more aware of these things which have been taught this weekend, communications from the other side of the veil, whatever you think that is, and you, starts to shift in its methodology. This morning we gave the example of parenting an 8-year-old as opposed to a 19-year-old. And this was done so you would see that as your consciousness shifts, human being, so does that which is the messages from the creative source and the way it works. And it starts to look different and feel different and be more advanced. That's frightening to some. Some time ago, we gave you some advice about communications with Spirit. And what we told you is that Spirit and you communicate at a different paradigm than humans and you. And we told you this, that timing is not the same. To get used to the fact that the actual paradigm of communication that you are used to in parenting and hierarchy is not the way we work. There is no time. Time is yours, not ours. You created it. Our time is in a circle. If you want a hint of this, you take a look at the quantum energies and what is being discovered about time. And you will see that a three-dimensional outlook is very rigid and boxed and segmented and patterned, and you must have time. But as soon as you get out of 3 dimensions, you don't go to 4, you don't go to 5, or even 6 or 7. You go to all. It becomes multidimensional, not numbered as 6 or 7. And if you did number them, you'd be linear. You'd still be in 3. And it's confusing. And that's where you're going. So some of you get messages from Spirit that says you don't belong here, you belong in another city, move there, and things will happen. You jump up, you sell everything and move there and nothing happens. And we've said this to you many, many times, and my partner teaches this, and the phrase is, who told you to do it now? And that was just one tiny change of a paradigm of communication between the other side of the veil and what you're used to here. Spirit will reveal things that are potentials for you long before they actuate in your 3D. You don't manifest them right away. But it's guidance for you to feel and be wise and move when you feel it's correct to move. Now that is free will with a little push. It wouldn't be free will, would it, if Spirit said, get up and move? It wouldn't. And so when you get these messages, be circumspect and understand that you are being given a beautiful, beautiful message, that there's more for you. in another place. And then understand to look around and feel and use that which is your intuitive power and the tools that you're being developed to know when to go there. And we've said that before, but there's more, dear ones. There's a lot more. Because things are starting to shift and change, and human beings think a certain way and then react a certain way because that's all you've ever done. When you learned to read, dear ones, you had a primer, a reading primer, and you can, some of you remember this. As the neurons connected and the language became there and you recognized the letters and the words and you could start to read, this was the tool that was used in your consciousness of society to let you read, and it worked. Now, I want to ask you, where is that primer today? Are you carrying it with you? And the answer is no, because it got absorbed into that which you call your intellect, into that which is your cellular knowledge and structure. You simply read. I want you to start applying this to the way Spirit works with you. How would we show an unbeliever something that is beyond that which they expected? They may have a vision. You may have a dream. You may have a feeling, a very, very powerful feeling. And in this, you're shown something. And the neurons start connecting and you start understanding there's more to life than I thought. Look, I'm having visions, I'm having dreams. These things are being shown to me. Isn't God great? Look, I've got a message here. It's a wonderful message. And then suddenly it stops. And what does a human do? They usually go into a dark room and say, "Dear God, what did I do wrong?" It stopped. Did you ever think that perhaps there's been a connection and you don't need those anymore because now they're intuitive? And you're going to walk around the planet having the knowledge that used to have to come from a primer vision. What about that? You graduate. So for those of you who wondered if you lost it, what if you graduated instead? You see, it's not what you think. Some of the things that brought you here, that you loved, and the feelings that you had, have moved past that. And now you're walking differently. It's inside you. You know the truth. You don't need those simplistic things anymore to take you to a place of euphoria that you didn't expect. Instead, you're asked to generate them on your own. To sit in a place and create the peace. The same feeling you had in the vision. The same feeling you had in the dream, being taken care of, being loved. Maybe seeing a face. You can do this yourself. You're on your own because you are a piece of the creative source that is graduating. Could I make it any clearer? That's just one thing. There are other things we've never spoken of. You make an assumption things are linear and singular. We have spoken about being an awakened soul. You understand that there's more than what you've been told. You start making the connection that the spiritual core of everything is yours. You are a piece of this. And you become alert and awake, much to the chagrin of your neighbors and your friends and the people you live with. You change. But you make an assumption. The weekend that you have just passed through contained profound teaching about cycles. And if you paid attention, you saw that the cycles were unique to the paradigm of what you were looking at. You had an earth cycle, you have a spiritual cycle, you have a weather cycle, you have a personal cycle. And yet, somehow, some way, there's the idea that if you awaken, everything is going to come together at once. It isn't. Let me tell you, there are waves of graduation and cycles. And because you didn't get them all at once again, you go into a dark room when nobody is looking and say, what did I do wrong? Dear Spirit, I've done everything. I know you're there. I can feel you there. I can feel the love. I'm awake. I'm awake. I'm awake. So why is this happening in my body? Why can't I shake this habit? Why can't I get the job I want? You said I could. I'm awake. Look, I believe in you. How much patience do you have to understand that all things happen as they should in the cycles that are designed for you at the right time, at the right place? And if you had them too soon or too late, they wouldn't work. They wouldn't work. And so we heard you. Did you know that you're actually in control? And that the more you understand about these things that happen in waves and cycles and the timing of them in your situation, the more you can relax and say, thank you, it's here. All right, there are those in the room that have been waiting for the healing. I know who you are. Do you know it's coming? And it's going to come appropriately. And when the time is right, it's going to come completely. I got 8 people in this room that need to drop a habit in order to live longer. You know who I'm talking to. And you say, well, I've tried and it doesn't work. Maybe there's a timing connected with it. Have you looked at this? Have you listened today? Have you looked at the cycles of your life and the times where it's more appropriate to change, where it's easier to change? Do you understand why there's energy in astrology, in numerology? Because these things around you are part of you. The magnetic grid is part of your consciousness. It reacts to your consciousness. That makes it part of the heliosphere of the sun, which also reacts. That means that the solar system is connected to you. No wonder astrology works. Have you thought about it? Are there cycles for you to look at? Have you really looked into these kinds of things to know when there might be an appropriate time that is better for you to heal? Some of you have been trying to get ahead for so long and get out of the cycle, you say, where you're not abundant. And you worry about it. And it's part of the fear scenario. And what makes it worse is the fact that you haven't understood that it comes in waves. Not everything comes together. And one of the things that you have to do is an awakening first. And that then creates a maturity. The maturity then creates a connection ability for you to actually believe things are happening and see them in your future. One thing leads to another and you graduate. And then it begins. And you find yourself at the right time, at the right place, crawling out of those habits that you had or the abundance issues that you had. And some of you said, well, it took long enough. Not realizing that it was perfectly timed. How many of you have given up? Well, I got half of it right, but I don't know about the other half. Not understanding, it's still there, it's still coming, it's still in your future. And what are you doing with it? Are you tapping your toe and saying, anytime, Spirit? Is there an irritation? Maybe there's even an anger. Not understanding. It's yours. Let me give you a hint and a secret. You're blocking the creation of what you're asking for. You're blocking the creation of it. The timing may have come and gone. Oh, there'll be another cycle. You're going to tap your toe through that cycle as well? or you're going to see it as accomplished in your mind in the future and celebrate being abundant, being healthy, having the things that you have asked for because we want you to stay here. You are a creator of reality, but you can't do it with 3D paradigms. You can't do it like you were raised. You can't do it with discipline and punishment and all the things that you think that are God. It doesn't work that way. Does this surprise you? Dear ones, this is more complex than you think, and yet it's so simple. As you awaken and discover compassion and love for yourself, you can then generate it for others. We said it before. You've got to love yourself first. That is where the compassion starts to be generated that's so pure, as you saw in the Masters. That's why people then would be attracted to you. This is how you change the planet. It's emotion, isn't it? It's compassion. It changes the environment around you. People can feel it. You walk into a room, you can feel whether there's a strain there, whether there's anger there, or whether there's a release and happiness and joy there. So why not understand that you're the creator of all that? You're your own compassion engine. You're your own reality engine. What's your perception of all this? Things are changing. There was a time when we told you that you could talk to that which you call your innate, and you could do it without it being out loud, and you only had to do it once or twice, and innate would listen. Those were the old days. Because suddenly, speaking out loud and your voice into the atmosphere around you, coming back into your ears and hearing yourself say something, has more power than it ever has in the history of the planet. With the energy shift, with the magnetic shift, with all of the things we've talked about, a new paradigm is here. Speak out loud your truth and affirm things that you believe perhaps in 3D are potentials, but they're not. They're reality. And the more you affirm them to yourself, the more real they will become, and the quicker they will appear, because the cycles will adjust for you. Affirmations, repeated every day. I dare you. Because you're going to feel it. You're going to know I'm right. It's like exercising energy. The more you hear it, the more you say it, the more neurons will come together and create it. Do you understand this? You cognize things and they become you. It's a circle. You with you. And it's never been more powerful. This is different. This is different than when I talked to you when I came in, even from 10 years ago. You've earned it. Dear ones, we are giving you this information. Not because you're doing anything wrong, because we want to advance this which is so available for you right now. I want you to leave this place differently than you came. I know in this room who is not paying attention. I know who's sleeping. There's something called the third language. You can't get away because it's going in anyway. And the reason why is because you gave permission and intent to sit in this room and hear it. Even if you came here by accident, even if you came with somebody who brought you because you didn't know what you got into, and you're there sitting becomes your polite person. You can't get away. You have free choice to remember all of this or not. You'll leave differently. These things are cumulative. The energy that is generated by cognization, that is, by awareness and listening, realization, changes lives. And you go away and you think about it. Then you have that beautiful little voice inside you that's always been there. Could this be right? Is it true? I know he was really strange. Channeling isn't for me. But there was something there. And the something, dear ones, was the truth of your spirit. Truth rings and sings. And whether it's from a scientist or whether it's from a channel or whether it's from you, realizing what you've got, it doesn't matter, because it'll open you up and you'll never be the same. This is the message of Kryon, and always has been, always will be. We'll repeat it again and again with different humans sitting in front of us who are feeling and sensing and working the puzzle of Earth in a new energy that's never been here before. And so it is.